There is something you were never told, something that explains why you have read the books, watched the videos, said the affirmations, and still, nothing has changed. It is not your thoughts. It was never your thoughts. It is your feeling. The quiet, steady, almost invisible feeling that runs underneath every thought you have. That feeling, not the words you repeat to yourself, not the visualizations you force in the morning, not the goals you write in your journal, is what your subconscious mind is reading at every moment of every day. And right now, whatever feeling is dominant inside you, your life is being built around it. Not around what you want, around what you feel. Most people have it backwards. They believe that if they think the right thoughts, the right feelings will follow. They believe that if they repeat positive words enough times, eventually those words will sink in and life will start to shift. But the subconscious mind does not read words. It does not respond to affirmations written on paper or repeated in front of a mirror. It responds to feeling, to the emotional tone that lives beneath everything you think and say. And here is what makes this so important. You can think one thing and feel something completely different. You can say, I am abundant, and feel lack. You can say, I am confident, and feel invisible. You can say, everything is working out, and feel a quiet, persistent dread that nothing ever will. And when that happens, when your words and your feelings are in conflict, your subconscious does not choose your words. It chooses your feeling. Every single time. This is not a concept. This is how you are built. Your subconscious mind has one job: to keep your outer world consistent with your inner world. And your inner world is not made of thoughts. It is made of feelings, of the emotional atmosphere you carry inside yourself from the moment you wake to the moment you fall asleep. That atmosphere is your real programming. And most people have never stopped long enough to notice what theirs actually is. So let me ask you something. Underneath all the positive thinking, underneath the affirmations and the goals, what do you actually feel when you think about your life right now? Not what you tell yourself you should feel, not what you perform for others. What do you actually feel? Is it quiet confidence? Or is it a low, persistent anxiety that you have learned to function alongside? Is it genuine expectation? Or is it hope mixed with doubt, a part of you wanting and another part of you already preparing for disappointment? Because whatever that feeling is, your subconscious mind is using it as its instruction, right now. Not in the future. Now. Neville Goddard understood this more clearly than almost anyone. He said that the feeling is the secret, not the thought, not the plan, not the effort, the feeling. And what he meant was this: your subconscious mind does not create what you consciously want. It creates what you unconsciously feel is true. There is a difference between wanting something and feeling it as real. Most people live in wanting. They want the relationship, they want the money, they want the health, the freedom, the life that feels just out of reach. And that wanting has a feeling. It is the feeling of not yet, of distance, of something that belongs to the future and not to now. And when you carry that feeling, when not yet becomes your dominant emotional state, your subconscious produces a life that keeps reflecting not yet back to you. The money stays just out of reach. The relationship stays just out of reach. The version of life you want stays permanently one step ahead of where you are, because your feeling told it to. This is why effort alone never works. This is why people can work incredibly hard toward a goal and still feel like they are running in place. It is not because they are doing the wrong things. It is because the feeling underneath the action is one of chasing, of trying to get somewhere they do not yet feel they belong. And the subconscious responds to that feeling the same way it always does. It keeps them chasing, it keeps them trying, it keeps them one step away from the thing they are working so hard to reach, because inside, the feeling of already having it was never there. You have to understand something about the way your mind works. Your subconscious is not interested in your future. It does not process tomorrow. It does not plan ahead. It only knows now. It only knows the feeling that is present inside you in this moment. And so the question is, never, what do I want to feel? Someday? The question is, what am I feeling right now? Because right now is all your subconscious has. Right now is where it takes its instruction. Right now is where your reality is being shaped. Most people wait for life to give them a reason to feel good. They wait for the result before they allow the feeling. They say, when it arrives, when I see it, when I have the proof, then I will feel the way I want to feel. But this is precisely the reason it never arrives, because the feeling has to come first, not as a reward, not as a response, as a cause. The feeling is not what happens after your life changes. The feeling is what causes your life to change. This is the shift that most people never make, and it is the only shift that actually matters. You are not a person who thinks their way into a new life. You are a person who feels their way into one. Every version of life that exists for you already exists as a feeling first. The abundant version of you has a feeling. The confident version of you has a feeling. The version of you that is loved, recognized, free, at peace, has a feeling. And the only way to move into that version of life is to move into that feeling first, not after, not when the evidence arrives. Now, so the real question becomes, how do you actually do this? How do you feel something that your current reality is constantly contradicting? How do you feel abundant when your bank account says otherwise? How do you feel loved when the person you want is not there? How do you feel confident when every experience you have had has told you that you are not enough? This is where most people get stuck, and this is where most teachings fail them, because they tell you to feel good without telling you how. They tell you to raise your vibration, to think positive, to just believe, as if the feeling is something you can simply decide to have and it will appear. It does not work that way. Feeling is not performance. You cannot force a feeling. You cannot fake your way into a new reality by putting a smile on your face while your inner world remains exactly the same. The subconscious is not fooled by performance. It reads what is real. It reads what is underneath. And if underneath the performance there is still fear, still doubt, still a quiet belief that you are not the kind of person who gets to have those things, then that is what it will respond to. Not the performance. The reality underneath. So what is the real way to shift a feeling? It begins with understanding what a feeling actually is. A feeling is not random. It is not something that happens to you from the outside. A feeling is a response to a thought you are holding as true. Read that again. A feeling is a response to a thought you are holding as true, which means if you want to change the feeling, you do not force it. You change what you are holding as true. Most people walk through life holding certain things as unquestionably true. I am someone who struggles financially. I am someone who never gets what they want. I am someone who attracts the wrong people. I am someone who is always overlooked. These are not just thoughts, they are held truths, and held truths produce feelings automatically. You do not have to think about them consciously for them to generate a feeling. They run in the background, quiet and invisible, and they produce an emotional atmosphere that your subconscious reads constantly. That atmosphere becomes your signal, and your outer world organizes itself around that signal. This is why surface-level thinking never works. You can repeat, "I am wealthy," 1,000 times a day, but if underneath, held quietly as true, is the belief that wealth is for other kinds of people, that you have never been good with money, that every time things start to go well, something pulls, then back down, then the affirmation is not touching the real thing. It is landing on the surface while the real program runs undisturbed beneath it. The subconscious does not hear the affirmation. It feels the held truth, and it builds accordingly. So the work is not about what you say, it is about what you hold as true about yourself, what you hold as true about the world, what you hold as true about what is possible for you. And here is the important thing. You are already holding something. Right now, as you move through your day, as you look at your life, as you think about your future, you are already holding a set of truths. Most of them were not chosen by you. Most of them were absorbed from your childhood, from the environment you grew up in, from the people who told you, without words, what kind of person you were, and what kind of life was available to you. And those absorbed truths became your feeling, which became your signal, which became your reality. This is not about blame, it is about understanding, because once you understand once you see clearly how the system works, you realize something powerful. You can change what you hold, not by forcing, not by repeating words louder and more often, but by deliberately, quietly, consistently choosing a new held truth and sitting with it long enough for it to produce a new feeling. Neville Goddard called this the revision of self. He said that before anything in your outer world can change, there must first be a change in your concept of self, in what you hold as true about who you are. And that change is not dramatic. It does not require a breakdown, a major life event, or years of therapy. It requires a quiet decision, a decision made not in a single moment of inspiration, but held consistently, returned to again and again, until it becomes the new normal, until the new truth feels more real than the old one. Let me give you something practical. Right now, think about the area of your life where you feel the most stuck, the area where results have not come no matter what you have tried. Now ask yourself, what am I holding as true about myself in this area? Not what you want to believe, what you actually hold. What feels quietly, almost uncomfortably real when you are honest with yourself. That held truth is the source of the feeling, and that feeling is the source of the result. The stuckness is not coming from outside you. It is coming from that held truth, producing that feeling, sending that signal, and your subconscious faithfully delivering a reality that matches it. The shift begins when you are willing to hold something different, not to pretend, not to perform, but to genuinely entertain a new truth. To sit quietly and ask, what would it feel like if this were not a problem? What would it feel like if I were already the version of me who has moved past this? Not imagining the outcome, imagining the feeling of the outcome, the ease, the quiet confidence, the absence of the worry that currently lives here, and then staying with that feeling, not for a second, not for one morning of journaling, but as a practice, as a new way of being. Because the subconscious does not shift in moments, it shifts in sustained atmospheres. You are not trying to have one good feeling. You are trying to build a new emotional normal. New baseline from which your subconscious takes its instruction, and that baseline is built slowly. Through repetition, through returning, through choosing the new held truth even when the old one tries to pull you back. Even when your outer reality is still reflecting the old signal, even when nothing has changed yet on the outside, because the outside always changes last. The inside changes first, the feeling changes first, and then, sometimes slowly, sometimes in ways you could not have predicted, the outer world begins to reorganize. Not because you forced it, because you changed what you were broadcasting. You are not trying to manipulate your reality. You are trying to align with it. The version of your life that you want already exists. As a feeling, it is waiting for you to match it, not to earn it, not to deserve it, not to wait long enough for it to arrive, simply to match it, to feel it first, to hold it as true first, and let your subconscious do what it has always been designed to do: deliver a reality that matches your inner world. This is the thing that changes everything, not the technique, not the method, not the number of times you visualize or the words you use in your affirmations. The feeling underneath all of it, that quiet, held, sustained feeling that either says this is who I am or says this is not for me. Your subconscious is listening. It is always listening, not to your words, to your feeling. There is a version of you that already knows this, not as a concept, not as something you read once and filed away, but as a lived reality, a version of you that wakes up in the morning and the first feeling is not dread, not anxiety, not the quiet weight of everything that is still unresolved. The first feeling is steadiness, a calm, unshakable knowing that life is working, that things are moving, that what belongs to you is already on its way. That version of you is not far away. It is not a future self you have to earn your way toward. It is the self that emerges the moment you change what you are holding as true. Most people believe transformation is long, that it takes years, that the person they want to become is somewhere on the other side of a long, difficult road, and so they brace themselves for the journey. They prepare for the struggle, they accept the idea that they must suffer first and arrive later. But transformation does not work that way. The shift is not at the end of the road. The shift is in the feeling, and a feeling can change in a single quiet moment. Not because you forced it, not because you performed it, but because you finally stopped holding the old truth so tightly. Because you let it loosen, just enough, to allow something new to settle in. That is all transformation is, a loosening of the old, and a quiet willingness to hold something different. Think about what you are carrying right now, not the things you talk about, the things you carry silently. The belief that you are somehow behind, that everyone else has figured something out that you have not. That the life you want is available to other people, but not quite available to you. That you have tried, and the fact that it has not worked yet is evidence of something wrong with you. You have been carrying that for a long time, and it has been heavy. But that weight is not the truth. It is a held truth. And held truths can be released, not dramatically, not in a single moment of revelation, but quietly. The way you release a breath you did not know you were holding. A slow, deliberate exhale of everything you accepted as permanent that was never permanent at all. The life you want is not locked. There is no door that requires a special key. There is no level of worthiness you have to reach before it opens. The only thing that has ever stood between you and the life you want is the feeling you have been carrying about whether it is really available to you. That is it. Not your circumstances, not your past, not the people who doubted you or the years that felt wasted or the mistakes that still sit heavy in the back of your mind. Just the feeling, the quiet, persistent feeling that said not yet, not me, not this time. And the moment that feeling shifts, everything shifts with it. Neville Goddard said something that most people hear, but very few actually absorb. He said that the world is yourself, pushed out, not a part of yourself, all of yourself, every person in your life, every circumstance, every opportunity that appears, and every one that disappears. All of it is a reflection of what you are holding inside, which means nothing outside you needs to change first. Nothing needs to move before you are allowed to feel differently. You do not need the evidence. You do not need the proof. You do not need life to show you something new before you are permitted to feel something new. The feeling comes first, always. The evidence follows, and I want you to really sit with that. Because most of your life you have been waiting for evidence, waiting to see it before you feel it, waiting for something to happen that finally gives you permission to feel the way you actually want to feel. But evidence is always a reflection. It always comes after. It is the outer world catching up to the inner world, and if the inner world stays the same, the evidence stays the same. More of the same circumstances, more of the same experiences, more of the same quiet feeling that nothing is really changing. So this is the invitation, not to pretend, not to perform, but to genuinely, deliberately choose a new inner atmosphere. To decide, not in a dramatic way, but in a quiet, certain way, that the old feeling is no longer the one you live from. To choose a feeling of already whole, already enough, already the version of you that the life you want belongs to, not someday. Now. This will feel unfamiliar at first. The mind will resist it. It will offer you evidence from your past. It will remind you of every time things did not work. Every time you hoped and it did not come. Every time you tried and the result was not what you wanted. The mind will do this because it is trying to protect you from disappointment. It has learned that hoping hurts, and so it keeps you in the familiar feeling, the low, steady hum of not quite, because at least that is safe. At least you know what to expect. But safety is not the same as living, and familiar is not the same as true. The familiar feeling is not your destiny. It is just what you have practiced most. And anything you have practiced can be replaced by something you practice more deliberately. So practice this, in the quiet moments, in the space between waking and rising, in the last few minutes before sleep, in the ordinary moments throughout your day when your mind is not occupied with something urgent. Practice holding the feeling of already. Not visualizing a scene, not repeating words, just feeling the feeling of a life that is working, the feeling of being someone who has moved through the thing that once felt impossible, the feeling of ease where there was once tension, the feeling of enoughness where there was once lack. Hold that feeling, return to it. Let it become more familiar than the old one, because your subconscious does not need you to figure out how. It does not need a plan. It does not need you to orchestrate the outcome. It only needs the feeling. Give it the feeling of already, and it will begin immediately to organize your reality around that feeling. People will appear, opportunities will open. Things that seemed blocked will begin to move, not because you forced them, because the signal changed, because the inner world shifted, and the outer world, as it always does, began to catch up. You have spent enough time in the feeling of waiting, enough time in the feeling of not yet, enough time carrying the quiet belief that the life you want is somehow just beyond where you are. That ends here. Not because something outside you changed, because you decided quietly, certainly, without needing anyone's permission and without waiting for evidence. You decided that the feeling changes now, that the inner world shifts now. That the version of you who lives from wholeness, from confidence, from genuine expectation, starts now. Not tomorrow. Not when things look different. Not when you have more proof that it is safe to feel this way. Now, because the feeling is the cause. Not the reward, the cause. And you are the one who chooses it. You always were. Your subconscious is listening. It has always been listening, not to your words, not to your plans, not to how hard you are trying, to your feeling, to the quiet emotional truth you carry in every moment. Change that truth, hold it differently, feel it as real, and watch how faithfully, how precisely, how inevitably your world begins to reflect it back to you. This is not magic, this is how you were built, and now you know how to use it.